Okay, ready?
Yep.
You're going to get it right. First time.
Get what right?
I'll say hello, and then
Ready?
you say hello, and then
Hello.
the billowing
Okay.
hilltop. And
Hello.
No.
Hello.
No. Oh, Christ,
And then the billowing hilltop.
We are the billowing hilltop. I hadn't worked anything.
You haven't done anything after that.
You've only got 45 seconds.
What do we do? No. I know what we do. We play
Dirty.
tabletop role-playing games. Currently, we're playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We're playing The Outlaws of Alkenstar Adventure Path by Paizo. And there's hundreds of episodes of us playing D&D.
Yep.
We just sit around a table, playing games and having fun, and you can hear us wherever you're hearing this. Search Billowing Hilltop. We hope you join us.
Yay! Thank you.
Hey, Bandit, me and Fred's got a question.
What do you and Fred want?
How come we doing this?
Well, why not?
Well, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, that's the reason, son.
3 movies that have changed your life.
How long have you been a robber?
4'1".
Good Lord. Jolly good. 4'1".
Yes.
Well, that is a long time.
3 movies that have changed your life.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.
Welcome to another BritFlix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today we venture into the world of SFX with Special Effects Supervisor Alex Gunn, who will be giving us the tip of the iceberg when it comes to literally explosive tales from productions he's worked on over the last 40 plus years. In practical, physical, pyrotechnic, miniature effects for films, television shows, pop videos and commercials, Alex has an almost unrivaled wealth of experience across all genres, from war movies to films, to food shows, historical dramas and to documentaries, specialty set design and construction, gimbals and other rigs. There's pretty much nothing he hasn't catered for. Welcome to the show, Alex Gunn.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Indeed. Now, on this episode, you're going to give us a peek behind the curtains on one of the biggest bangs ever heard outside on film via the Grand Slam bomb scene 2008 Rambo. How you convinced Tom Cruise and Bryan Singer to actually blow up a table for real in Valkyrie, and that crazy, and I mean crazy, farmhouse shootout sequence, because to call it a scene would be to do it a disservice in episode 5, season 1 of Gangs of London. And obviously, after that, we will be doing 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Does that sound like what you've signed up for?
I would think so. Yeah, that's a pretty good smorgasbord of what we're about.
Indeed. Now, just for the to keep us on in check with time, Alex has agreed we'll do the 5-minute timer on each of the 3 subjects he's going to cover in terms of special effects, and then we'll do the same thing when we get onto the films. So, clock's ticking on. The biggest bang ever heard outside on film, Alex. Go on, tell us how this come about.
So, for all those that are familiar with the film, it's a scene involving Rambo booby trapping a World War II Grand Slam bomb.
Yeah.
Which was dropped by the British over Burma during the Second World War, and it's a 10-ton bomb, the biggest bomb of the era. So, we're obviously not going to go anywhere near that sort of level of destruction, but we need to do pretty big because it's a Rambo movie. So we isolated an area in the jungle, and we had beaters move in for 3 days to scare all the wildlife out because, we don't want to kill them.
Yeah.
And what we did was the explosion is supposed to be like a giant grey mushroom cloud. By the way, all explosions when they're big enough form a mushroom cloud. You don't have to nuke them to get a mushroom cloud.
Okay.
It's basically physics of hot air rising and how it sucks things up into the air, hits colder air at an altitude, which then cools, rolls over and turns into the mushroom head. So all big explosions generate a mushroom cloud.
Okay.
So, and the idea was to sort of show the majesty of the Burmese jungle, or Myanmar jungle as it's now known, and have this massive explosion go off with this big mushroom cloud. So, to sell the idea and for a degree of safety, the cameras were a mile away.
Really?
0. Yep. And I was in a dugout with my Thai effects coordinator called Rang Ransimapum. We were 300 yards in a dugout from the blast zone.
Yeah.
Now, what we've done is we buried approximately 200 kilos of ampho-based explosive. So that's ammonium nitrate explosive. If you want to know what 7 tons of it looks like, then go to Beirut or however much it was that exploded. You might want to check that detail out. And an ampho explosion gives itself away by the yellow smoke that it generates.
Okay.
So, and then that was only the core of the bang. We had layers and layers of rings of deck cord laid out to give the shockwave moving through the jungle. And we also had a whole bunch of 45-gallon drums, oil drums, buried in the ground with about 20 gallons of fuel in each one, and 10 to 15, 2 to 3 kilos, of black powder charges as lifters.
Right.
And you don't bang it all off at once because you want this explosion to look incredible. And there's multiple cameras on it seeing it from different angles. So we'll pick up various details. So we've set all this stuff up. I'm in the dugout with Rang, ready to fire it off. I'm bearing in mind this is filmed, so obviously we have to be careful that we're not going to have a run out during the shot because the cameras are over cranking to heighten the feel of the explosion, to give it more magnitude by slowing it down somewhat.
Yeah.
All 3 cameras turn over, or 4 cameras turn over. I get the word the cameras are running. We go hot on our circuit straight away, and I'm using a striker, which is a way of firing multiple circuits, one after another, in a set sequence at a certain rate of speed. And I'll explain it slowly, but bearing in mind everything I'm about to describe takes place in about 2 seconds.
Okay.
So we let off the petrol bangs first. We don't let them all off at once. We let them off from the centre and they move outwards away from each other. This creates a massive wall of flame. Then we start firing off the deck cord as if the shockwave is starting. And then the big one, which is a whole bunch of gelignite sticks all wired up in these sacks of ampho, so that what the gelignite does is it compresses the ampho so violently that the ampho detonates. And what that means is that rather than every particle of ampho burning one after another and liberating a certain amount of energy, every single particle liberates all of its energy instantaneously.
Jesus.
All explosions are roughly...
Go on, finish your thought.
Take what you've got of the volume of your explosive and it increases 7,000 times in volume instantaneously.
Jesus.
So when we hit the big bang, it was absolutely deafening and the dugout shook.
Yeah.
We are in our dugout watching this mushroom cloud rise up into the sky. And I think, well, the cameras aren't going to see me. I'm going to get out and get some pictures. So I've crawled out of the dugout. I'm busily taking photographs of this mushroom cloud rising up in front of me. And Rang suddenly pushing me out of the way. What I forgot to mention is sitting on top of the ampho is about 4 tons giant sacks to give the grey cloud because we don't want the yellow ampho cloud.
Yeah.
As he pushes me out of the way, one of these sacks lands right where I was standing.
No.
It was 300 metres from ground zero. We did some rough calculations. The time it took the explosion to go off, for the bag to that bag of dust to lift up into the atmosphere, me get out of my hole in the ground, start taking pictures, and gravity to call it back to Earth.
Yeah.
So with the amount of time elapsed, we reckon that bag of dust got to about 1,000 feet before it turned round.
Jesus. Can I ask one last question about that thing? So I'm guessing with this kind of job, there is only one take, is there? Or is...
Oh my God, yeah. It took 3 days to get the animals out of the jungle.
Yeah.
It took another 3 days to dig all the holes in the ground for the oil drums and to lay all the deck cord out, run all the firing lines out. You've got to test absolutely everything. You can't have anything not go off.
Yeah.
Because what you can't afford is to have bits of explosive decor thrown all over the jungle.
Yeah.
You can't have black powder charges that haven't gone off. You can't have bags of petrol leaking into the ground and contaminating it. Everything must go off. And to put it into perspective, when we went down to Ground Zero to have a look, 200 kilos of AMFO put a hole in the ground big enough to park a double-decker bus in and bury it.
Bloody hell! Right, sir. Now for your second story from the field, a much more contained explosion, but an explosion nonetheless. When you convinced Tom Cruise and Bryan Singer to let you blow up a table for real in Valkyrie. So, do you want to tell us what the tension was there then that meant you were convincing them?
Originally, Bryan Singer was going to do it as a bullet time CG spectacular with everybody flying away from the central explosion and spinning through the air, and the camera was going to go around the map room and right?
Yeah.
And he was explaining it to me, and I said, "Well, that sounds like something out of The Matrix. This is a World War II film. People are going to expect to see an explosion, not The Matrix." And he had on Brian's wall was the famous photograph taken 2 hours after the explosion of Hitler standing next to Il Duce, pointing at the ruins of the room, with the table all smashed to bits and windows broken, and Hitler's in a fresh uniform and looking completely unarmed. Yeah. And I said, "I'll make it look like the photograph." And what's more, this is a very interesting example of actually using no explosives at all.
Oh, go on.
It was all done with compressed air.
Really?
We built a massive, the whole table was breakaway, made out of balsa wood. Everything in it was made out of balsa wood. The window frames made out of balsa wood. The windows were toffee glass. We had 24 people in the room. We actually simulated how Hitler survived.
Yeah.
The bomb was on the far side of a railway sleeper table then, because it was designed to be an impromptu air raid shelter should you be caught out in the open.
Yeah.
And as he was leaning over the table, pointing to something, and the bomb went off, a great chunk of table broke away, acting as a shield, lifted him up and threw him against a wall and protected him from the blast and the shrapnel debris. That's why his trousers were shredded from the knee down. Yeah. That was the only part of his body that was physically exposed to the explosion.
Amazing.
He had 23 other stunt people on assortments of snatch rigs and hand pulls. So we did a Mexican wave of people as the table blew up.
Yeah.
The table was snatched up on a snatch rig as the air cannons fired, and then the snatch rig cable was released so the table could fall back down again and then end up with the room looking just like it did in the photograph. We banged it all off. Brian was very, very happy. He said, "We've got that, we're moving on." I said, "Do you want to have another go?" I said, "Well," he said to me, "Well, we don't have the time for that." I said, "Well, we do. We're ready." And he's like, "What?" I said, "We're ready. I mean, wardrobe are just dusting off the stunt people, and all we've got to do is clip them into their snatch lines and we're ready to go again." And he went, "How did you do it so fast?" And he came to the set to have a look because he didn't believe me.
Yeah.
I'm known for having wind-ups with directors. And he thought I was pulling his leg. The whole set was all complete again, and I got the construction guys to build the end wall of the set on a rail so we could slide it out, broom out all the debris, wheel in the new dress table, plonk it over the air cannon, slide the wall back in, we're ready to rock and roll.
Jesus.
We shot it a second time, and what that gave him was 3 more camera angles. He's not going to shoot it exactly the same. He's going to move his cameras around.
I was going to say, yeah, because that sequence it's so kinetic because of the way you see it. The way it isn't just a fixed view of a table. It's the chaos of an explosion, isn't it?
Yeah, you do actually see the table rip up towards you and people flying about all over the joint.
Yeah.
The exterior view is done with real pyrotechnics and black powder charges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was instructed to make Tom jump for real, so we did. When he comes out of the building and it explodes behind him, when he ducks like that, he really did duck for real.
Oh, you it was like a surprise for him as well.
Yeah, he wasn't expecting it to be quite as big and loud as that, but you know, Hollywood, right?
Indeed. So when you're designing that, I mean, you say you convinced him to go for that approach as opposed to a sort of like you said a Matrix bullet time thing, but then where do you start with a design that you can just pull together and put back together in minutes to be going again? I mean, that's...
Well, what you do is you break it down into its constituent components.
Yeah.
So the table has got to be lifted by a snatch rig, which is like a standard gag that we employ to make things move.
Yeah.
Whether it's up, down, left, right, what have you. We're not going to use pyro because we're going to put people in the room. So it's got to be done with compressed air.
Yeah.
So we had a giant air cannon that fed through a giant valve, then through a pipe that went into basically like a 5-cone trumpet under the table that fired left, right, forward, backwards, and upwards.
Yeah.
Filled with bits of debris and what have you. So it's not lifting the table, the snatch rig is doing that.
Okay.
And then all of the...
Confuse your thought.
That's it. All of the stunt people, the 12 in the immediate vicinity of the explosion, so it's 6 on either side of it, are on stunt snatch rigs, which are tied into my firing network.
Yeah.
And then the other 12 people are on hand pulls, so that they know that the moment the bang goes off, the first man pulls, the second man sees him, then he pulls, and you work that out with the stunt coordinator for the timings and for the way you're going to rig them and put all the pulleys in and whatnot. And before you actually do the gag, obviously you test it to make sure you've got to get the table to lift just as the air cannons go off. You have to factor in, for example, that the first thing that fires is the air cannon, because it takes a quarter of a second for the valve to open and another quarter of a second for the air to get to the trumpet.
Okay.
Now, whilst that's happening, the next sequence is a massive weight that's dropping to build up enough kinetic energy that it snatches the table. As the air comes out of the air cannon through the trumpets just at the right moment, then the table lifts, and you know that the table is going to take like half a second to rise up. Then you've got to release the snatch rig from it, because you want the table then to crash back down again, because it's made out of railway sleepers. It's not going to fly away like the people do.
Yeah.
So what you actually do is you set things up, you shoot them with high-speed video cameras, and you can literally see on this frame it starts to do that, on that frame it starts to do this. Therefore, I've got to dial it in, blah, blah, blah. I had an electronics friend of mine build a firing box that when you hit the button, it triggers events that can be set milliseconds apart.
I was going to say,
so
your brain must work in bullet time.
Yeah, it does. Literally, when I look at something and I want to see it explode, in my head, I can actually see, I want that to go that way, this to go this way, that to go somewhere else. And that's actually from back in the day of working on a lot of commercials.
Yeah.
Where you would have to do a gag that would be maybe 2 or 3 seconds in a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
As my old film lecturer used to say, a piece of film about 3 foot long. You've got to make it count. And so then you start to see it. You actually visualize things going in certain different directions. And you think, well, how can I make it do that? Because if it does that, that's physics at work. Therefore, there is a way to artificially create it, but without actually blowing everything to bits and then making it resettable.
Amazing. Well, look, let us move on to your third example of special effects that you've supervised on. The episode 5, season 1, crazy farmhouse sequence. Now, I've almost got addicted to watching this. It's like a theatre. It's like its own theatre. It's a dance, relentless, fast, crazy, and then it stops. I mean, the bit when it goes on, somebody gets shot and it goes silent, and a door creaks closed with blood splatter on the door. It's like I'm getting a chance to rest, and yet, it then kicks up again. So where does something like that sequence begin for you? I mean, what's your conversation with Gareth, the director, like the producers, the actors? So
the way it works is that Gareth and Jude Poyer, the stunt coordinator, work out what's called a pre-visualization.
Okay.
All the stunt people running and jumping and falling over.
Yeah.
And it's all edited together, and you literally shoot the edit. You don't add some bullets over there that aren't going to be seen. We don't have someone falling over there that isn't going to be seen. Literally every single shot in that entire sequence, including the big explosion at the end, that incidentally took 3 days to film.
No.
It wasn't just let's bang it all off and hope for the best. It was all carefully worked out because it was supposed to be following the explosion from when the bag detonates, the mercenary is blown to bits, and the camera is now going to track sideways along. We're going to see the shock wave hit the brick walls and knock the stonework onto more guys that are hiding behind it. We can then see the pickup truck that's been shot to bits rock and roll on its suspension from the shock wave. The camera is then going to wheel around and see the huge explosion go off, and then the shockwave hits the rest of the mercenaries that are running towards the building, and they are then all blown back outwards.
Yeah.
And we then finally pan round onto one of the main mercenaries and see debris raining down on them. So you just can't do that in one go. There's way too many things that go wrong. But by breaking the thing down, like when I see an explosion in my head, it's all I can see. I break it down into components. When you get a preview, you can work out exactly what you need to put in and where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And that entire sequence, just that end shootout at the farmhouse, that's 6 weeks prep for 20 effects people, and it took 4 weeks to shoot.
Get out.
Because you've got not just the people running in through the window and bullets going off, you've got the loft sequence. The big house was a full-size set build. It wasn't a real house.
Yeah.
The whole ground floor was all for real, as the way it was all set decorated. We even made the shutters drop down. The bulletproof shutters in the windows dropped.
Did you?
And then the attic section was again 2 sets. There was a very large attic section of the interior of the attic that was set up about 5 foot off the ground, so you could only see sky out the windows. And then there was the exterior bit of the attic roof that you see the mercenaries being shot through and falling off, which was built on the ground,
right?
But always shot with the camera low, aiming up to see sky. So basically, no one was ever more than 5 or 6 feet above the ground.
That's so weird, isn't it? That's so weird.
Well, it's safety first.
Yes, of course.
And then everything else is just carefully worked out. And it's my favourite example to counterpoint that is we're all familiar with Sonny's murder at the toll booth in the first Godfather movie.
Yeah.
That took 3 days to film, just him taking the bullet hits.
Did it really?
Because it's not all done in one go. It's every single hit is worked out, and the timing of it, the position of it. Are we going to see it? If we don't see it, we won't have it. If we want to see it, he's got to turn this way, so we rehearse to turn this way or that way or whatever. Every single little detail is carefully worked out and then made to look like it's random.
Yeah. When you talk about all these different ways that the set is created, are you advising on that as part of the process, or are you given the constraints?
Yeah, absolutely. So the production designer will design it and give it the look. That will then be handed down to the supervising art director, who will then work with the construction team to build it.
Yeah.
And that's the point at which we then move in and say, if you want these shutters to drop down, we need an inner and an outer wall. It's got to be at least a foot gap between them, because we need to get someone in that wall to be able to work with the mechanical shutter.
Yeah.
We also are drilling loads of holes in the fake brickwork so that we can then set our bullet tubes in, which have got to be reloaded.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll work very closely with what needs to be made out of balsa, what needs to be a breakaway prop. Do we need doubles? Are we attempting a retake? What if camera lets us go or someone fucks the positioning? Are we resetting this? Do we need to build 3 of them? For example, prune that one out and wheel the next one in.
Yeah.
All of the rocks outside, they need to be of no more than a certain weight so that we can shape them with compressed air and they can fall convincingly on people and look like they're crushing them without crushing them. So it's a massive collaboration. And it's not just art department and construction. You've got to get wardrobe involved, because when we blow the guy up,
yeah,
you see the shockwave rip him to pieces. That's a polyurethane foam dummy, but with his clothes stuck to it.
Yeah.
So we have to shred all the clothes. So wardrobe now they've got to buy extra copies because we've got to test it first, and then we've got a way of hanging it, and then we've got to make sure it rips apart and looks like he's being blown to bits. And on top of all of that, we must not forget that the visual effects supervisor will be there to paint out wires, add extra blood, make this thing go away a little bit or what have you. So everybody gets a piece of the pie sometimes.
Yeah. It's a real sort of ensemble thing behind the camera, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically it's the film equivalent of orchestra.
Indeed, yeah. And like I say, go back to my original point. It's like watching a piece. It is a theatre. You're a theatre performance when you get to see the finished thing. It feels like everything is natural and is meant to happen the way it happens, but still feels like the randomness of tens of people firing submachine guns at each other.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing those stories from the film and TV sets, from a handful of film and TV sets you've worked on. We will now move seamlessly along into 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Before we get into the 3 films, it'd be remiss for me, because one thing that I'd made a note of it, and I forgot to ask you, have you estimated on that Gangs of London sequence how many bullets you got to create, how many bullets hitting stuff on screen you had to do? Has that been estimated?
Yeah. Well, no, you actually work it out. The beauty of a previs is that you can actually calculate how many you need per take.
Okay.
The problem with a lot of directors that don't want to be tied down and think they can make it up on the day is that you actually end up wasting a lot of stuff that isn't going to be seen by camera.
Okay. So
previses are the best way to do it.
Yeah.
There is always the fear with a lot of stuff that, I'm tied in and what if something happens that takes us in a different direction? And where acting is concerned, I can quite understand that. If you're doing some intense dialogue and there's a plot twist or whatever it is, sometimes you can write it as well as you like and then you realise it's not working and you need to change it.
Yeah.
But once you've nailed your action down, action has to follow certain rules, beginning, the middle and the end.
Yeah.
We introduce a bunch of people, a bunch of things happen, some live and some don't. How do they die? They die like this. That is not going to change.
Got you.
Along with a lot of other things that don't change. So once you've got your previs, I will literally sit there and count out how many I think per take and then price it up, work out if I need to make doubles of things, make suggestions. I think we should have a double on that, but that's too big. We'll only get one go at it. And it's not because it's going to be costly for us to read, because the pyro is not particularly expensive. It's only slightly more to produce 10 bullet hits than it is to produce one. But I always remind production that they won't have the time to stand there and watch us reset unless they've got something else they can go and shoot whilst we do it.
Got you.
So I'm not having them standing over my shoulder going, how much longer? The first person that asks me that, we just stop. Because I've got all of these and they're right where I need them.
Indeed, yes. Yes, you can't rush explosives, is what you're saying.
No. You let the explosives take care of themselves, but don't rush them.
Indeed. All right, so well, thank you for indulging me on that.
Right,
we shall move on to 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. You've given me 3 films. I'll do them in the order that you've given me. And every time we hear the alarm go off, that'll be 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next film. Does that sound like what you signed up for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right then, clock's ticking. For your first choice, we head back to the silent era for 1927, Fritz Lang's sci-fi masterpiece, Metropolis. Horrifying facts to do with this film that I found out. Unemployment and inflation was so bad in Germany at the time that producers had no trouble finding 500 children to film the flooding sequence. And much to Fritz Lang's dismay, Adolf Hitler and Goebbels were big fans of his film. Goebbels even met with Lang and told him he could be an honorary Aryan despite his Jewish background. Mr. Lang, we've decided who is Jewish and who is not. Lang left for Paris that very night. But tell me, why is Metropolis such an impactful film and holds such memories for you?
Well, it outdoes Hollywood at every turn. It's the longest physical shoot in the world, with over 300 days and 80 nights. It bankrupted the studio, and that flooding scene that you alluded to earlier, approximately 30 people drowned.
No.
For real.
Gee whiz.
Now, the whole premise of the film, bearing in mind, this is 1924. Movies have only been around for a handful of years. Now, Georges Méliès, the father of special effects as well as many other things, this film presents a future that is prescient in its imagination of giant soaring buildings and huge highways high in the sky and fantastic aeroplanes and cars and the life of the uber rich and super wealthy.
Yeah.
Living above ground whilst the ants toil below it, and they're controlled at every stage of their lives. Now, that's only one generation away from when all of the coal mining companies across Europe and Britain owned the houses that their coal mine workers lived in. So, we'll pay you 2 shillings a week, but we'll have a shilling back of rent. And if you mess around, you're out, you're homeless. So the whole idea of the absolute totalitarian and envisaged the way it was a decade before someone thought that would be a good idea and let's have a go at it. And then ended up actually being like that in Russia with their monolithic buildings. As a youngster, before I was even a teenager, I'd seen this film. I've always wanted to do special effects since I was a kid. And I looked at that film and thought, well, that's what I want to do. I want to work on stuff like that. So the biggest thrill I could say of my career was not once but twice working on films at Babelsberg Studios.
Right.
So I literally trod the boards where Metropolis was made.
No way.
And it is such an inspirational film for so many other filmmakers. It is the idea of the Terminator. It is the idea of Alien. It is the idea of Blade Runner as a film, not as a book, but as a film.
Yeah.
The visuals in it. And if you actually get to see a decent quality print where the contrast levels are maintained and it's not all scratchy and bits are missing, and you see it on a big screen, you simply can't believe it was made 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was made 100 years ago. If you think what we're looking at now is a movie that 100 years ago predicts the world that we're in, looking back at it 100 years ago. Scary. Yeah, it is. It is. Because we've got the, I'm not going to get on some kind of social soapbox, but the way we're moving is pretty much what Fritz Lang shows in his film. And on top of that, it employs every single type of special effect there is, every kind of optical gag, miniatures, mechanical rigs, huge engineering processes for the flooding sequences, the robot transformation that's even today, we're still not quite sure how they did it.
Really? That's true.
A lot of us in the effects community have theories on how the film was overlaid. And when I was at film school, I actually was able to replicate what Derek Meddings was doing with multiple exposures on one piece of film by using a clockwork camera that you can wind the film back frame accurate and then do another exposure on it.
Yeah.
But the rings of light moving up and down the robot that then transform into Maria. There's all sorts of arguments about what they were, whether they were hand-drawn animations, whether they were some kind of weird strip light that didn't exist at that time or what have you. Fast
forward now to 1986 for Alex's second choice, James Cameron's action-packed sequel to Ridley Scott's Aliens. Fun fact, and I imagine you can relate and sympathise with this one, none of the models or the original designs for the Narcissus, the Nostromo shuttle from Alien, could be found, so set designers and model makers had to reconstruct the model of the ship and the interior set from watching the film, Alien. And Sigourney Weaver, despite a 30-fold increase in salary from Alien, refused any information on the behind-the-scenes making of the Queen so she could keep the character real in her mind. But tell me, why does this film have impact on you and what memories does it hold?
Well, the first thing is that James Cameron started out as a special effects guy.
Okay.
And he's obviously the thing that got him noticed was the Terminator, which was an idea he'd had since he was at film school. He worked for Roger Corman back in the day, and a number of other low budget productions where he was a matte artist or a model maker, a practical effects guy, prop man. He pretty much did it all.
Yeah. And
on the success of Terminator, studio turned to him and said, "We'd like you to do a sequel to Alien in your own inimitable style," and then just threw a load of money at him. But the only way to make it work with the money that he had was he had to do a George Lucas and come to the UK, because no matter what producers might tell you, even now we're cheaper than the Americans, and every bit as good, if not better. And the film is a CGI-free zone. Everything you see is for real. It's solid practical effects work. It's real monsters running around a real spaceship interior with real explosions and giant models of spaceships flying around. And that's a game where Jim was really good. He knows how to do back projection, how to get the contrast levels right. There is a scene where you first go into the labyrinth of the mining community that's now been taken over by the creatures. And the whole ceiling isn't a set build, it's a glass matte painting that Jim did himself.
No,
and he knows how to get his hands dirty on his own film.
Yeah.
And it is when you and it's like Metropolis. Not that it's in the historical perspective, but if you watch that film now, it was made 40 years ago, and has never been bettered in terms of almost every aspect of it. Not just the performances from the cast, the visuals, the action, the timing. What you're watching on the screen blows you away. And at no point did someone sit there in front of a laptop and go like that, make it better.
What do you think? I mean, given James Cameron's background, then how did that help? I mean, I guess it's obvious, but how do you think it helped make the film as effective as it is then in terms of those special effects that you're talking about?
When you're a director of photography, you focus on exposure. When you're a camera operator, you focus on the framing. When you're a focus puller, you make sure that the other two are kept happy. When you're a wardrobe designer, you've got to make your people look good in the stuff you're gonna weave them into.
Yeah.
You know, the art director or the production designer, you're responsible for giving it a look. When you're a construction manager, you've got to know how to build it. SFX have to do all of that on top of what they've got to do themselves. They have to know how it's built. What are the materials used? Is it fireproof? If we're doing bullet hits on someone, don't use silk or nylon.
Yeah.
Use cotton. And I don't care if it's got to look like silk, use cotton, because we don't want to set these people on fire. We want to make sure that when we blow this up, that bit isn't going to fall over out of control. So with his effects background, Cameron knew how far he could push things, including his cast.
Yeah.
Because I've often maintained that a good director gets a performance out of their crew as well as out of their cast. And by performance, I mean that they're finding new ways to do stuff, or they're making existing ways better than they were before. Can we build this mechanically? How big does a miniature need to be? How long will it take to build? And how many of them have we got to have? And so on and so on and so on. And he had all the necessary skills to weave all of that together, which is a rare find in any director. I mean, I've worked with quite a lot of directors that are very, very good at getting performances out of people and then hand all the action over to a second unit director who goes off and makes their own private movie.
I once saw, I saw the documentary for the making of Only God Forgives, the Nicholas Winding Refn movie. And there's a fight sequence that happens on the street, and all that Nicholas Winding Refn says to the stunt coordinator, he goes, "Can you just make a cool fight sequence?" and then just walks off.
Yeah, I get it in script. Spielberg used to refer to it as the $250,000 sentence. In the script for Poltergeist, there's a line in the script that literally says, "and then the house implodes."
God, yeah.
And it costs $250,000 to build the rig to make the house fall in on itself. And I've seen it in certain shows that I've worked on where there is literally a line that says, "and what follows next is the most kick-ass fight you've ever seen."
Well, no
and then...
Right then. For your final choice, we jump back 22 years to 1964 for Si Enfield's epic war movie Zulu, based on the real Battle of Rorke's Drift in South Africa between British soldiers, approximately 140 to 3,000 plus Zulu warriors. One of this movie's technical advisors was a Zulu princess and the tribe's historian. She knew the battle strategy perfectly and drew it on sand. Enfield shot that exactly as she drew it. And the production needed a camera crane that was lightweight when disassembled, so it could be packed and transported through the bush. A guy called Ken Eddy, which I maybe guess you already know, designed the first ever Filmair giraffe camera crane for Zulu, inadvertently starting the world's best known camera crane company. But tell me, why is Zulu an important film for you, and what impact does it have on you?
It is an absolute classic piece of filmmaking. I went to see it at the cinema again as a youngster, and back in those days, movies quite often had a revival like 10 years after their original release. They'd be just stuck out at the cinema to get bums on seats.
Yeah.
So I went to see it when I was quite young, and then on another occasion, I had a French pen friend come and say when I was in my teens. My folks thought it would be a great idea to take us to see this film one more time. Completely freaked him out, whereas I loved every minute of it. Yeah. And the film is, in all respects, a passion project. If you read Si Enfield's writings about it, and Stanley Baker's writings about it, and how about this for your factoids? When the crew went away to film it, they had no communication with home for 6 months.
Wow.
But there was no mobile phones back then.
Of course not.
They didn't even have 2 tin cans and a bit of string. Yeah. Can you imagine in today's world sitting at home saying, "Hey wife, hey kids, Daddy's off to do a job on a film and he'll be gone for 6 months."
Yeah, that's amazing,
nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, nuts.
So that aside, I think the film is like the Battle of Britain. It shows it from both sides of the coin. It's caught between the rock and the hard place of it's an awfully violent story. But we want to get bums on seats. We want youngsters to be able to see this as well. So we can't be too gruesome about it. But we can't soft soap the story either.
Yeah.
And we're talking about real people that did real things. And a Night to Remember is the epitome of naval storytelling, if you like, because it's way better than Cameron's make-believe Titanic nonsense, which is really shameful because he could have actually made a brilliant film, but instead chose to make some drama about things that never happened. So with this piece of British history in mind, and bearing in mind this is also the 60s, Britain has just finally shaken off the shackles of rationing, and houses are starting to be rebuilt finally. There is a sense of hope in the atmosphere. What better way of encapsulating that national feeling in a film about a tiny group of people facing insufferable odds and against all hope prevail? That's the essence of the story. It was so successful that a couple of years later, Zulu Dawn was made, which was about the devastating attack when the Zulus overwhelmed the British Army at the Battle of Isalawana. Watch them the other way round. So you watch them in chronological order, and you can see how spending 30 million on a film does not stack up to spending 30 bob on a film, because Zulu was made for a very, very small budget.
Yeah.
And it's the passion of the story. And again, it's another one of those films. I want to work on something that has got historical relevance, tries to tell it like it really was. I know they do mess around with some of the characters because you can't get everybody in there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the film is going to take 3 weeks to watch, like The Battle did. You know, it's just not going to happen. But as a seminal bit of filmmaking, and again, it's another one that if you watch it now, it simply stands up to scrutiny.
Yeah.
It looks visceral and it's gutsy. It's got that fabulous music to it. I found it very difficult to choose 3 films, and one of them was going to be 2001. And I was going to put them in chronological order, but then I thought, no, what I'm going to do, I've got a sci-fi movie already. I've got a historical narrative already. So now what I want is a true story.
Yeah.
because I like to work on films of true stories. And the closest I got to my Zulu moment was running the effects department on the second unit, which is the action unit, on Wolfgang Petersen's Troy, which was just mental. It was like doing Zulu every day of the week for about 6 months.
Amazing. Well, look, that brings us to the end of 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Thank you for sharing those stories and that insight into special effects associated with the films. It's tested me, I think, that what you were saying in a way is if you can get it in camera, it's going to look more convincing. Not that it needs to be in camera all the time, but there's the reason some of these films stand the test of time is because what you're seeing happened and it was edited in a way that made it feel real.
Well, as an epilogue, what I would say is that my career looked like it was over in the early 90s when CGI started taking over.
Yeah.
Until we saw how crap it was, and it wasn't getting any better. No matter how much money you threw at it, apart from the occasional outburst like Jurassic Park, the first one, where everybody did gasp, including us in the practical effects community. It was like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
What's happened is that the filmmakers, directors particularly, have realised that CGI, VFX is a tool for a particular job. It's not a panacea. It's not going to replace everything.
Yeah.
And now, when I'm on the set, I work hand in glove with the VFX supervisors, and as I often tell them, so they can make me look good. Rather than having to make lots of complicated rigs and building doubles and hiding stuff all over the place, and how we can do it, spindly little wires that break and whatever, I can literally stick something on the end of a broom pole and wave it about, and they can paint it out. Now, that broom pole is actually some great big hydraulic rig that can go X, Y, Z movements and is repeatable and what have you. But you've got a real thing moving through real space under real control of real physics. And that's what makes it work. You just need to make the thing that makes it move go away somehow. And that's where VFX comes in, unless it is Superman flying through a tower block, killing 30,000 people in the process. But what we're going to see is a tower block fall over. And to be fair, if you try to do that as a miniature, you'll end up building something about a quarter the size of the tower block, and that's big money. Even I know that's big money, and it's just not going to happen.
But also, I mean, thinking when I was looking back at the Gangs of London scene, I mean, it's a big macro scene because you've got tens of men firing guns, you've got the location, but the drama is always about the individual. It has to go macro, micro very quickly. So the reason you empathize with what you're watching is because of the people who are involved in the action. And if that doesn't become part of what you're seeing, I mean, I remember seeing, what was it, Superman versus Batman, and it was obviously, it was hyperbolic and it was going off big style, but there was nothing to hook your emotions into. It was just a spectacle and spectacle.
You have to get every single member of the audience making themselves think that they're there.
Yeah.
And how would it affect them? Make them feel the fear, make them feel the rush, whatever it is. And if you can't get them to feel involved, all they're watching is a very expensive Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Yeah. Before you go, then one last thing. Then, if there's a wannabe sort of special effects person listening into this, what's one advice that they can go look at something or try out? What would be your thing for someone to maybe an exercise to do that would help them sort of get their head around what special effects can be or how they can be better at special effects?
Learn how to shoot it on film.
Okay. And why is that?
Not video, because film focuses you in a way that video doesn't.
Okay.
You can turn the video camera on, you can just leave it running. I'll re-ready it now. I've just got to tweak this. I've just got to fiddle arse around with that. I've got to fuck about with this. And it's like, oh, yeah, do you mind? All the firing circuits are live. You're walking onto the set and you're fiddling around with stuff, or the model is starting to melt under the light, whatever it is. And when you're shooting things on video, you can paint out any part of it because all it is a bunch of ones and noughts that need manipulation.
Yeah.
When you're shooting it on film, what you see is what you get. It's an analog recording device recording an analog event. And if you want it to look real, it's got to be as real as you can fake it. And that's the key, is when you turn over camera, it's got to happen. There is no messing about. There is no last minute tweak. There is no, can we just do this? Can we move a light? And that what that does is it's not just the effects person or people that are focused at that moment. Everybody is. And that kind of communal focus helps it to work. If it's a stunt falling over or being caught on fire or all these other wonderful things that we can do. If you can do it on film, you can do it on video, but not the other way around.
Got you. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's very generous of you. Just gives me to say thank you, Special Effects Supervisor Alex Gunn, for giving us your time on the Britflix podcast.
You're welcome, sure. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, Bandit, me and Fred's got a question.
What do you and Fred want?
How come we doing this?
Well, why not?
Well, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, that's the reason, son.
3 movies that have changed your life.
How long have you been a robber?
4'1".
Good Lord. Jolly good. 4'1".
Yes.
Well, that is a long time.
3 movies that have changed your life.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.